My name's Jim Pickett. I've written a series of 3 books. I was a former school teacher at DeKalb Central in Indiana, and I've always been interested, though, in history, although I didn't teach that in school. But growing up in New Haven, Indiana, which is a short jaunt from Fort Wayne, I always liked history. And certainly the Northeast Indiana has a lot of history, as well as Northwest Ohio. In the first book, The Bones of Kekionga, I took both sides of the story, the Native American side, who were living here in the Kekionga, Fort Wayne region of 1790, before the fort was built. And then another chapter will be about the Americans marching their way up from Fort Washington, which is nowadays Cincinnati. So we're moving along, we're following the Army up here. You're learning about the Native Americans, you're learning about the new Americans that are coming into the Northwest Territory. Some of these soldiers are up for revenge against the Native Americans because western Pennsylvania was the edge of conflicts between the Native Americans and the new Americans. Some of those who joined the Army were out for revenge. And as we follow that story, it leads to and culminates with the Battle of Kekionga that took place in October of 1790. Here we have St. Clair in a similar situation, moving up toward Kekionga Indian Village. Their target was to build Fort Wayne up here, to try to settle down the Native Americans who were causing much of the uprising along the Ohio River. And so we're following St. Clair, but in a flashback, you're hearing from some of the victims of what took place in the Battle of St. Clair's defeat on the upper Wabash River. So you're following these fictional characters. They join up with an army or a legion of 66 flatboats coming down the Ohio River, led by Anthony Wayne. And they join up with the Legion, and they meet with William Henry Harrison and Anthony Wayne and some of the others that were made up the Legion. They join one of the sub-legions, and later on become scouts since they had experience leading coming in with Harmer in 1790. So we have the historical fictional characters joining up with Wayne, leading the way. So you're learning about their adventures and what it was like to be a scout back in those days, and the building of Fort Recovery, the building of Fort Greenville. You're following Wayne's army across the Great Black Swamp to Fort Defiance and the building of Fort Defiance. You're following them down the Maumee River to the Toledo area. Maumee, Ohio is where the Battle of Fallen Timbers takes place. And then you're going to retreat from that area since there was a British fort there. They didn't want to get totally involved in that. Follow it back down or up the river to Kekionga and the building of Fort Wayne. So we move into the third book and the Siege of Kikianga. We're going to have a time jump to 1811. A lot of things that happened in 1811 are leading up to the siege and the War of 1812. So you've got William Henry Harrison now playing a big part of the taming of the Northwest Territory. William Wells is in the area at that time, and so you've got Fort Wayne and the Kekionga right there. It's still an Indian village. There's still Miami, and so we've got some interaction between the Native Americans there and the Americans, and trying to live in peace. You've got Little Turtle near the end of his life, and you have Mechaniquot, who's an Indian princess down along the Mississippi River. I pull her into the story, as well as John Chapman. Tecumseh makes appearances in the march into this siege at Kekionga, and so stories about what it was like being under siege inside Fort Wayne, as well as some of the battles that took place at Tippecanoe, the Battle of Tippecanoe down by Lafayette, and the Fort Dearborn clash that took place, where William Wells went to help bring the Americans from that fort. It didn't turn out too well, though, for the Americans there. So those stories hopefully are brought to life and people learn history in an enjoyable way, not in a history book form, but in an actual you are there experience that it's more of an adventure